This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
So very simple question, sentiment or capability?
If we looked at the community-based initiatives, they have
like
both sentiment and capability, right?
No.
They have both.
Not really.
Because they're fighting the same problem, not so?
Okay, could you
characterize
what you term as capability then?
No, the fact of the matter is that they can source funds from international movements and get those funds to
so
help their
how often
aid.
are funds given to communities?
The fact of the matter is that they can. They have the presence. They have the power to do that.
The fact of the matter should be what is happening and not who has the power to raise.
No, the fact of the matter is that something can be done. Yeah, they can do it. If those community-based initiatives can source funds, they can do it. Are we together? We have already given you statistical information that shows community-based initiatives can source funds.
So essentially, you'd rather go with the side that has the ability that
you asked me a straightforward question. Sustainability
and I did not get my answer. The question was sentiment or capability.
I told you that both can occur on my side of the vision.
On your side of the vision, all we see is a bunch of sad heretics that are coming together, believing they can pull something off, yet there is a body out there that is specifically trained to handle these kinds of situations.
These sad heretics, you know, have saved 1,200 people in India alone. What has your government done in India?
So essentially, you concur that government has done completely nothing with human trafficking.
They have done their effect, but we are saying that who is more effective? In this case,
100% the side that has caught international criminals like Jeffrey Epstein, the Weinstein brothers, and Sean Diddy Combs. I think I'd rather go with the side that has handled the case much better, which you concur.
Then I would ask you a question. Between 1,200
I feel I should be the one asking the questions, right? Okay, so now moving forward, what kind of authority or influence would the people of Chisasi have over other Ugandans in the Middle East that are being trafficked?
The fact that they're on the grassroots problem itself, they have a voice to be heard.
I don't think Chisasi and Saudi Arabia share the same grass.
What is your question exactly?
The question is, what do the people of Chisasi have, what kind of influence would they have over the victims in the Middle East?
If somebody is telling you that my people are being trafficked to the Middle East, aren't you informing the government that there is actually a problem that we have to solve?
Okay, so now...
Aren't you? Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. What we get from his side is that it would be much better to hear from the people who are being angered by the situation and less from the people that actually have the ability to tackle the situation head on. So now moving forward with a case that is obviously more logical for anyone paying attention, let's just talk about why our side wins very easily. The only thing they talked about with the communities is that they are essentially the people being affected. Henceforth, they now have the right to be the people that should take action. But the people that should take action are the very same people that these communities trust with a right to take action. As in, if there's UPDF or there's Ministry of Defense and there's people who have been set up to tackle such kinds of situations, you should not come and complain that because you now want to have a say in the matter, these people have done nothing completely, and because we have had a few cases of communities doing something, which we acknowledge, yes, communities have the ability and have the ability to push forward for some victims to come back. I believe the center of the debate is now who has solved the problem better, not have communities done anything. Now, one of the issues that communities fail out on is now whose arm can stretch further. As in, that is to say that government as a body is ready and capable to handle the problem, whether it is within the country or whether its very citizens are outside the country being trafficked. That is to say, as I brought up earlier in my cross-examination, that the people of Chisasi will only be able to take action if the problem is existing within their community. But government as a body with the mandate, the authority, and all the necessary resources needed will be completely capable of tackling the problem, because now it doesn't come back down to an issue of we are being affected and more of we are supposed to handle this problem. Now, their biggest problem, I'd like to end here by just saying it's not an issue of who is affected and more of who is capable of handling the situation.
I begin my speech in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dear Speaker, answer my questions with a yes or no. Don't dilly-dally. If you dilly-dally, I will take it as a yes on my side. Are we together? Characteristic of most top-down management is a patronage system in relation to cronyism. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Thank you very much. I'll go to the next question. Assent of the bill commits to... assent of a bill computes to organ transition of a bill until it attains approval?
Now,
Yes
the
or
problem
no?
with your
It's a yes
I
or
believe
no
I deserve
question.
I
Please,
deserve
I'm
the
going
right
to the
to
next
answer the
question.
question.
I
Do I
told
not?
you I take my own answers.
I
Thank
believe
you.
it's Q and then I
Enactment of a
answer,
bill
right?
is extended and meticulous processes.
So now your question is
Enactment
solved,
of a
right?
bill is an extended and meticulous process. Yes or no?
Before I move forward, I would
Enactment
like
of
to
a
ask
bill
for the
is
right
an
to
extended
answer
and
your
meticulous
question.
process. Thank you. If you're not answering my questions, I'll continue.
You're not giving me the right to. I
said
don't think I can
answer
give you
with
an
a
answer
yes
to that
or no.
question if you don't let me
I'm going
talk.
to the next question. Modifying the contextualization of social contract demands redemption to the recipients of the contract.
Okay, now to answer that,
Modifying the contextualization of social contract demands redemption to the recipients of the contract.
100% yes.
Thank
And
you
we are
very
getting the
much. I'm
redemption
going
that
to
you're
the next
asking for.
question. On-ground presence computes to better situational awareness. Yes,
I believe
or no?
the on-ground presence allow the government
computes to better
themselves because it
situational
is their
awareness.
country.
Thank you very much. Did you hear the definition? Did you hear the definition that we gave for what a community-based initiative is?
Yes, you're very poorly characterized.
Did you understand the? Sorry, did you hear? Do you believe that the definition of a community-based initiative that we gave was that it is a program or projects that are designed to implement and sustain a given community?
I think you asked an apology.
Are we together? I have asked you a question. It's a yes or no question. Do you consent that this is the definition that we give for a community-based initiative?
No.
It's a yes or no question. Oh, thank you very much. This is a statement from my first speaker. I asked you the same question. Characteristic of most top-down management is a patronage system in relation to cronyism. Characteristic, top-down management. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to go back to the fact of the matter is, I asked him the first question, right? Characteristic of most top-down management is a patronage system in relation to what? To cronyism. Now, I would like to come back to the fact of the matter is that most governments have what we call a patronage system, whereby if people are elected into power, they elect people who are of close relation, or who are friends. Are we together? This in turn increases the rate at which corruption is occurring in each most governments. Now, the fact of the matter is, my first speaker came here and gave you an example. We said our parameters are what? Tier 3 countries. Are we together? These Tier 3 countries have already set in place, have already implemented government policies to do what? To fight what? To fight human trafficking. But then, ask yourself a question. Why are they called Tier 3 countries? It is because these government policies have already what? Failed. Now we already came here to give you an example. Now, since the initiation in 2008 of community-based initiatives within India, the information was gotten from the World Bank Organization, the sector that deals with what? Human trafficking. So if you can go under the worldbank.com, you can search for that information. We came here and told you that the community-based initiatives are responsible for saving more than 1,200 people. 1,200 people. While government initiatives alone have only saved what? 500. Are you telling me now, if we put those two things on a weighing scale, which one is more effective? Because, dear judges, I would like to comment on the fact of the matter is that the debate of today is a what? A value debate. We are seeing between the two sides which one is more effective. These people have failed to understand. They are coming here to give us what? Policies. Now, I come back to the set of the. I come back to the next question. I gave him a question. I told him enactment of a bill is an extended and meticulous what? Process. We have said that there is bureaucracy within government. Are we together? We said. In law itself, we have first reading, second reading, third reading of a bill until when it goes back to what? The president, so it can be signed off. Are we together? All those stages under which a bill is going to go through, how many people do we have to lose? Are we together due to human trafficking before something is done? We are telling you that people are on site, are seeing the problem, and are willing to do something about it. That is the purpose of a community-based what? Initiative. They are coming here to tell us that because their policies are being put in place, they're going to be more effective. We have told you, Act number 2 was put in place since 2006. Has it been effective? We're asking you that question. Thank you very much.
Debaters, thank you for that very good round of debate. I have just a few concerns throughout the entire debate. First of all, it is with both sides and content. Perhaps maybe when a concept becomes a bit too detailed, we brush over the basics, and these basics come to dumb it down. Take, for example, let's dumb down the entire scope of the debate. Team Affirmative stepped on stage and said, human trafficking is the buying and selling of persons. So if we dumb down the entire debate and say, okay, this debate is zeroed down to how effective are community-based initiatives to addressing buying and selling of persons, it then becomes hard for you to convince me at the end that buying and selling of persons is going to be stopped by what Second Affirmative says, which is a community that is in touch with whatsoever is happening. We can do crowdfunding, budgetary funding, or something like that. That's what you said, to stop buying and selling of persons. So I struggle on that ground. I struggle so much also with a lot of what I would call as logical fallacies in the debate. I'll tell you an example. -4 comes on stage and says that how effective is Chisasi, or the people in Chisasi, in stopping what human trafficking in the world, or how effective are they in addressing problems in Dubai? But you take community to be one nucleus. You forget that Chisasi is a community, then Kulambiro is a community, then Ntinda is a community, then Nagalama is a community, then everything else is a community. At the border is a community. So on the broader scale of things, if a community is everywhere, it is not a one-size-fits-all. And to me, I think that's a problem of government, because government is almost one-size-fits-all. Then you're taking the community to be everything. You get me? That is kind of the argument. There are so many logical fallacies that fly across the debate, and people saying, no, social media is a ground for a lot of distractions. And someone says people go on social media to see Mariah Carey and Taylor Swift. It's an overbroad generalization. And as we all know, overgeneralization will not come, because you people are very intelligent. But overgeneralization of facts, betrayal in the city. All right. So here's what my debate was reduced down to. The debate was reduced down to, number one, which side would be able to first discharge its burden of proof on their case, but then effective rebuttal of a case that is cognizant of the clash points. After speech one, the first clash point I realized was supremacy of government in apprehending the largest of criminals vis-a-vis a grassroots-based approach at solving human trafficking. But I believe this clash point is then watered down by either the concession that's made by either third affirmative or second affirmative, by saying that when government's approach is largely proactive and not reactionary. You concede to their fallacy. They tell you, but government is capable of addressing these problems before they come, but largely community-based approaches address these problems after they've happened. And you concede, you're like, yes. And that's armor in their arsenal. Because at the end of the day, if government's approaches are always proactive, it means they have the capacity to anticipate and address a problem before it affects the entire community. So off that, it is by and large gone. But then on case construction, after you saying, okay, you're addressing the problem among tier 3 nations, I want you to group them into a cluster. I do not want to hear India. I want to say, what cluster of nations fall among tier 3? Then, in these tier 3 nations, what is the major characteristic among tier 3 nations? Perhaps it's bad governance. Now, this is a case construction that I look for majorly from speech 1 and 2, but I hear in speech 4. As a result, I do not know whether the debate delivery is even coherent. Because of insufficient, we subsist in the entire debate with a lot of just inferences of information, and the case is only laid down by -4. But -4 laying down that case, he's laying it amid barrage of that have already been made. You need to improve on that heavily. My issue with team negative, as I've already said, is just inferences that are far away from the fact. And as a result, you will see the content marks are so low. These are the marks. Content, 22 affirmative, 25 negative. But largely, it was a race to the bottom. Style, I'll give you 12, I'll give you 14. Cross-examination is not a time for conversation. And I think -4, you're deceived. He does not answer yes or no. He engages you in the conversation, and when his turn comes up, he then wants to squeeze you. But I also find that the style in rebuttal from team affirmative is heavily wanting. On strategy, I'll give you 32, I'll give them 34, making 56 affirmative and 63 negative.
I also want to add my voice to start by appreciating both teams, both team affirmative and team negative, for putting up such a spirited round of debate. Thank you so much, and keep it up. Now, to go to the depth of this resolution, this was a resolution that was looking at comparison between community-based initiatives vis-a-vis top-down approaches. Meaning what the judges wanted to just look at is now to the team that is able to tell us which alternative they are supporting has been able to justify its effectiveness towards prevention of human trafficking. Now, this was a value resolution that was mainly looking at what is in place and not what you are capable or your workability to do something. So mainly what the judges wanted to hear is, how have you been able, using the alternative you have, how have you been able to address the problem at hand? Not the capability you have, not what you intend to do, but how have you been able to implement the same. Now, this one now goes on to the fact that now you have to give us the statistic. For example, you have to give us the numbers, and you really have to build your cases by you justifying what you have been able to do in place. To start with, a correction. Team negative, if you listen to the definition of CBI or community-based initiatives from Team Affirmative begins by telling you that community-based initiatives are not restricted to geographical jurisdiction. Meaning it's not a must that for us to talk about a community-based initiative, it is only that something to do maybe within Nadia, something to do within Wegere. No. That is why, for example, if you look at even what we call the WUONET, which is the Uganda Women's Network, it can also be a community-based initiative. And now community-based initiatives can even do what they call transnational networks. That's why for them, even in their case, they were even looking at the UN, or you can even look at the ICC. It can qualify to be a community-based initiative. So a community-based initiative is not restricted to geographical jurisdiction alone, but as long as you are coming together as a certain group of people for a common cause or for a common goal that you have, you can amount to be a community-based initiative. The biggest distinction between a community-based initiative and a top-down approach is the effect that in top-down approaches, there is an upper hand that is coming from the government, whereas in a community-based initiative, the upper hand is coming from the community members within themselves. Number two, I want to appreciate the arguments that come from Team Negative and also Team Affirmative. Team Negative also had arguments where they were looking at government sets, legal frameworks, they were looking at international reach outs. Now, for this resolution, this is the motion that you'll find that either teams could have points that cut across. For example, if you're looking at frameworks, even they would say even community initiatives can have what they call a legal framework, because you have even seen community initiatives coming up with policies that the government has been able to implement into the actual law to become a national policy. So these are points that would cut across, but now the issue is which team has been able to justify their arguments and bring about the effectiveness of alternative they have. Now, one of the major issues I get from Team Affirmative tries to characterize the top-down approaches where they are looking at the levels of bureaucracy, and then for them they're telling you that the bureaucracy that exists in the top-down approaches is not able to address the issue of urgency they are looking at. Now, on another day, you should not come and consider the fact that, yes, even if we take long in the even if we take long to come up with these legal frameworks, at the end of the day, we are doing something. No, do not make such a concession, because for them, they are telling you, if you have the bureaucratic tendencies, then you are not able to address the urgency that the matter has. But of course, also now by the arguments, we are now looking at the capability, where you ask them a question that, okay, now, let us look at the government that is able to make a law before something happens, vis-a-vis the community-based initiatives that come up after something that is resulting into place. Now, personally, I'm a person that is really strict on the modes of procedure in this way. I believe personally Team Affirmative would get my win. Why? Because Team Affirmative was able to justify to me what community-based initiatives have done, and not like what Team Negative did, where you are telling me what the government is capable of doing or what the top-down approaches are capable of doing. This means that now if they're giving you statistics of what community-based initiatives have done, where they even make a comparison of 1,200 vis-a-vis 500 cases, now you are also meant to come up and justify what the top-down approaches have done to prove the effectiveness vis-a-vis the community-based initiatives they are talking about. And these are my marks. Style, I give both of you 15. Content, I give them 26, I give you 24. Sorted, I give you 27, I give you 26. In totality, I give 60 to Team Affirmative, 65 to Team Negative. So according to me, it's a win for Team Affirmative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you, for our wonderful debate. It's good for this stage. Now, I don't know who told debaters that you have to downplay your opponent at every stage. These are comparison debates. They are debates where we have to agree to disagree. They are debates you win on persuasion. By the time we give you the resolutions, it means we know someone as capable as Judge Solomon can defend either side. In other words, there's something that has been done by CBIs and there's something that can be done by TDAs. Now, it's then not okay to say maybe government has done nothing, maybe CBIs are doing nothing from each side. It is for you to do these two things. Tell us, at their level best, government and CBIs, who is most likely going to do what? Solve human trafficking the more. And also compare maybe at their level worst. Who is going? So it's not okay to just say, you know, this has done nothing or this has done nothing, because the next thing I will do in my speech is point to you to what I've done. So we just have a debate of facts, 20% has done this, 20% has done this, yet we just need to compare. If you're at your best, you can do this. If I'm at my best, I can do this. So that's how the debate should play. Number two, I think fourth speaker for the negative team, and they have already hinted, you did not do well in terms of style. Cross-examination is strictly for you to ask questions and not debate them. You use your 2 minutes to really fire questions, get answers you want. You can always chip in, but you don't turn it into a conversation and you drill the argument that should follow those questions. So you need to work so much more to improve your line of questioning and getting answers. Number three, I think debaters need to understand how to contextualize things and take concessions. So for example, the contextualization of the UN to be something that is community-based did not sit well with me. Why? Because community-based organizations are where communities come together and agree to do something. It might be economics, it might be what, in this debate, it is human trafficking. Now, things like UN might fund community-based organizations, but that does not make them community-based organizations. Government can also fund community-based organizations. It does not make it community-based organizations. So I had a problem with what contextualization came from UN, and I didn't see at the end of the day why Team Affirmative is struggling so much to bring UN on board, because the arguments you present on table will subsist whether you have UN or not. So it was like useless of time, misuse of time to contextualize the debate that way. Now, this, like I said at the start, is a persuasion debate, so I have to look at all the arguments you presented to me and see which team persuades me the more to win their debate. From Team Affirmative, I get important things. One, bureaucracy on the side of government. Two, who is most likely going to involve people to participate the more. And three, since the biggest cause of human trafficking is poverty and unemployment, who can solve that poverty and unemployment? Now, from Team Negative, I have two fundamental arguments, which is who has the greater reach? Is it the arm of government, or is it the community-based organizations? But also, whose obligation is it, and who should be held responsible first? Now, of course, the House engages on these 5 arguments, and this is how you engage on them. On participation, Team Affirmative tells us that because people are threatened and they are the people suffering, then they are most likely going to respond. However, I had trouble when there was a concession in between the speeches, and the speaker said that when government then was implementing laws, it meant that then people can engage in participation. So it was sort of an overreach that government at the end of the day will bring some sort of participation. On employment, I did not get a response from the negative team. Now, I don't know why. This team has highlighted that we have a problem. Human trafficking is caused because of poverty, and I don't get any response at the end of the day on how you solve poverty, or who, or if that is an assertion or what. So I felt like you ignored that argument, and it's not good for debate. You need, especially if you're a negative team, you need to engage each and every argument that comes to you. On who has greater reach, I felt that one, the affirmative team is strict, sort of what Judge Calvin told you, to not understand what community-based is. So if they ask you if a community-based organization is in Chisasi, which effect does it have in Dubai? And that was like the highlight of the entire argument and how it is moved. So I felt more persuaded by the negative team to tell me that government has a greater reach. It can hold international discussions. It can hold diplomatic discussions. It has an incentive. It has to have dispute resolved through diplomacy, and what at an international scale or even at a domestic scale. But that even buttressed by the argument of obligation, that whose is it the first obligation to solve human trafficking? Is it people's obligation, or is it government obligation? So I felt they also won on the argument of saying that it is a government obligation. Now, this leaves us with one argument, which is bureaucracy. Team Affirmative tells us that, you see, government procedures and top-tier procedures, top-down approach procedures are bureaucratic. They will take a lot of time to solve a problem that is at hand. Team negative sort of tricks you to a place where they tell you that is the approach to human trafficking one that is reactive or is it one that is preventive? Now, the worst decision you could have done is to agree that it is one that is preventive and therefore government coming up with laws and what then sort of solves human trafficking at the start without, then it is a position where you just implement the laws that already exist. Because then this takes away all the bureaucracy you've discussed on the 3 readings of the act in parliament, because we already have the laws, so now we need to implement them. The police officer does not have to go to parliament to discuss the law before they implement it. They will just go and implement the law. So the fact that government then will be preventive and not reactive sort of says that we have put measures to prevent human trafficking from happening, and you're sort of saying that CBIs are then going to wait until people are threatened and they go to it. So on a larger scale of things, I felt on those 5 arguments, like you have had and you presented them as persuaded by both of you, but by the marks, I was persuaded by the team that will qualify. I gave both of you 14 for style because there was a problem with either side speakers at some point. I think there's a speaker from this team that you could tell that they had carried arguments from someone else, so they would read as it is written and drop it down, and I was still confused on what exactly is the point is that person making. So going forward, maybe you can learn to adopt the arguments, even if they come from your team, to put them in your words. So that affected the style. Number 2, I felt like the affirmative team weighed in so much on content, in percentages, in numbers of what their side of the house, like I said before, it shouldn't have been, we are doing something, you're doing nothing, but unfortunately that's what it is. So I felt like the affirmative team did so much to show us what CBIs have done and what government has not done. And I gave them 25 for content and 22 for content to the negative team. Now, my biggest disparity is on strategy. I felt like due to a lot of concessions and a lot of contradictions, I felt like I should give the affirmative team 21 for strategy and 26 to the negative team for strategy, bringing it down to 60 for the affirmative team and 62 to the negative team. Negative team wins the debate on a split ballot of 2-1. Thank you.